Well,
Sounds
Drew
good.
is so excited to have his episode air. He was asking me like every couple days.
Yeah, no, it must have been. Well, he had to wait 2 weeks, right? I think.
Yeah, 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. A podcast about bourbon and the ones who drink it. This is Bourbon Matters. Welcome to Bourbon Matters. I'm Jake.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Gold Eagle Jake.
Disappointed, Gold Eagle Jake.
Why?
You're
I'm laid up?
disappointed.
Oh. No, I'm excited actually. This is my first drink since I had knee surgery a week ago. So
jeez.
I'm excited to get back into it. And if you're one of the 5 video watchers, you can see that I'm kind of laying down and slumped up right now. So
Thought you were just
sorry,
being
Neil.
casual.
I am being casual. That too.
So within the last month, you've had ACL surgery. I've had back surgery, which makes other Jake the de facto best athlete of the group, which is the first and probably only time this has ever happened.
Yeah, probably.
Jake also had a baby.
Yeah, I did. So
Well, you didn't.
No,
that would be bigger news if you had it.
Well,
yeah.
We don't know for sure, but yes, he's got a baby in his house now, so that's a lot to take on too.
Yeah,
we've all got some big things going on.
I think this will actually be my first drink in like 2 weeks. Also,
wow, no celebration pour.
I had Jack Bonded Rye, but I had like 2 sips of it the other night.
You have all that high end stuff, and you went with a $35 pour.
Yeah, because it's we'll get there at the end of the year, but it's
Sounds
either
like
my
a stall
number.
job.
It's either my number 1 or number 2 whiskey of the year. We'll see.
Jesus.
I just ruined that episode, but that's okay.
I think we all
so-
knew. You were mad that I picked Jack Bonded last year, so now you had to have Jack Bonded Rye to get your vindication this year.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's good. But speaking of that, today we are talking about daily drinkers and the relevance of them as we're moving into, I don't know, deeper into the bourbon boom, I guess would be the way to describe it.
As bourbon's evolving.
Yeah, there's just so much product available. Is there really a necessity for daily drinkers with all the variety that's available? I think is kind of the question that we're posing to each other. On top of that, we also have a couple samples from Barrel that we're going to be trying, part of their cask finish series, Tale of Two Islands and their Amberana finish. Dan's got the bottles up right now.
Look at that! Look at that production value.
These are the first and second of the cask finish series releases, I believe. So it'll be interesting to try those. And then Jake has feelings about the new lower proof barrel bourbon release that we'll probably talk about because it seems to be aimed as being a daily drinker. So let's just jump into it, I guess.
So I guess for daily drinkers, like, what are we all classifying as a daily drinker? So what puts them in a category of a daily drinker? Is there a specific like price point, proof point, anything like that we're looking at?
I think nowadays, like, people would consider a daily drinker something super affordable and easy to find. Something that's enjoyable, that you can just pick off the shelf anytime you want, and it doesn't break the bank, right? Something you can have a pour of every day, and it's not going to cost you much. But I do think I want to go back even further and just add that I think the definition of daily drinker has changed dramatically in the last probably 20, 30 years. Because of course we have a lot more options out there now, and people want to explore and taste different things every time they're drinking whiskey. But it used to be, coming from a liquor store standpoint, we would have people come in once a month, buy a case of Early Times Handles, buy a case of Jim Beam white label handles, and that was like true daily drinkers. Like people were
Mhm.
stuck on their bourbon; they didn't drink anything else. And I think that's where the term kind of started back then.
Yeah, it's like when I think of a daily drinker, I think of something like Old Granddad, not even the bonded version, just like pure Old Granddad. So something that's like like a $10 or $12 bourbon that's always available, is decent, but not necessarily like gonna blow you away. You just want something, to get the job done after a long day of work. It's a little bit stronger than light beer or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it's definitely shifted. I think today, if you asked somebody if Basil Hayden was their go-to daily drinker, they'd probably laugh at you. 'Cause I think most people are looking for a higher quality and depth of flavor and complexity and things like that, even as their go-to.
Yeah, I mean, kind of on my side of things, probably since summer, I've noticed that when I come home from work or if I'm just sitting around and want a quick drink and I'm just by myself, I've usually been going to the bottom shelf. Which for me, I've been working through some very old Barton. I've been working through some early times, some old Granddad, and 1776 as well. Even going through just our Whiskey Acres Bottle and Bond is kind of been the stuff I've been going to. When we all have decent collections, I've noticed that I have some of the nicer stuff I've hardly even touched unless there's people over anymore. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I know Gold Eagle Jake would love this, but for example, my since my back is non-functioning, I had my neighbor cut my grass for me the other day. So he came over. He's a whiskey guy, and I didn't know what to pour him, but I was going to grab bottom shelf, and he had never had Elijah 18, and man, did he love his Elijah 18.
I'm telling you,
It's good.
everybody on this podcast hates on it, but
Not everybody, just one person really hates on it.
If you got money to spend $200 on a 90 proof watered down, go for it.
But yeah, I've been using it for when people are over. I just usually go to the better stuff. I poured them that. We poured some Old Elk double wheat, a couple other things. But it's the more I've had it, I enjoy that stuff, and I would like to drink it all the time. But I like to have those harder to find, more expensive bottles, more or less when other people are here. So it's just not me drinking expensive whiskey by myself and dropping a tear in my Glencairn. So I usually stick to the cheap shit now.
yeah, it's not as much fun to drink like special bottles by yourself. It's more fun to share them.
Yeah, it's definitely more fun to share, but I will add that I don't think I really like. There's bottles I consider daily drinkers, but I don't really like always keep one or two bottles and go to pour it consistently. I
Mm-hmm.
find like almost every time I want to drink whiskey, I reach for something different because I'm more into picking out the flavors and experiencing a certain whiskey than just having a drink just to have a drink.
Yeah, and
And I
that's
think yeah, I mean, I'm not drinking like Pappy Van Winkle or like Antique Collection when I just want to have a drink, but a good single barrel of Knob Creek or a Castle and Key Rye barrel proof, like something with a little more to it. I usually
mhm.
find myself going for than just the average bottom shelf bottle,
Yeah, and
and I,
that's
and I
that's
think
something that I'd be interested if we did like a listener poll on like if someone's gonna have a drink on a weeknight, are we talking about one single drink or are you having multiple drinks? Because I think a shift towards like just having one dram could be happening where if you're just going to have one, then you want to really experience it and savor it and pick something that's more interesting and more in the realm of like a single barrel or something more complex than your run of the mill bottom shelf bourbon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that point. I don't have any problem with that point. And I think part of it's my OCD too. Is like when I open a bottle anymore, I like to get through it. So I'll just keep pouring that bottle for a while until it's gone and get it off the shelf, and have a nice space for something else new to come in because I'm trying to not have to have any more shelves in my house. So usually my daily drinkers are that bottom row, and I just keep alternating stuff off that bottom row to see what I like.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Jake's buying whiskey while we're talking right now.
Yeah. I bought one from today's.
And buying shelves every time we record. There's a new shelf.
He had me pick him up a bottle today when I was at a store. So.
Oh, that's true. I did get that today.
But yeah, I mean, I should add, like, we do still have people that come in and buy cases of handles of early times and various items like that, just like old brands, and just buy handles of it. And it's always an older person. It's never the young person that is buying whiskey to drink like that. So a lot of those daily drinkers, I think we're going to start to see the sales on those kind of hurt. And I think the only thing that's really like holding that stuff together is bars and restaurants and cocktail scene.
Mm. Yeah, and I think we've talked about this before, where like the impression of bourbon for a long time was that it was like your grandpa's drink. And
right.
Especially, during the big lull in like the 70s and 80s, where interest probably bottomed out on bourbon because it was viewed as this like old timey kind of thing. But it is interesting now to compare it where I would even say that like some of those staples are still viewed as like, oh, that's like grandpa whiskey. Like, rather than like maybe it's just because it's always there, nobody's really interested in it. But
I don't necessarily agree with that. And I'm thinking of like the prime example I'm thinking of right now is Gentleman Jack versus all of the new stuff that Jack's come out with. Mm-hmm. Is for a long time, Gentleman Jack was the high-end Jack, and that was a nicer bottle of whiskey to have. I don't...
But was it ever considered a daily drinker? Or are you saying now
that's true.
It's more?
That's true.
Because I would think the regular Jack would be the daily, and the gentleman would be like, all right, I'm having people over, I want to impress them, we're drinking Gentleman Jack.
Yeah.
Also, if you're having people over and you want to impress them, don't pour Gentleman Jack.
Well, I'm talking 15 years ago when we didn't have all these options that we have now.
You would have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I guess like when I think of, daily drinkers, maybe 10 years ago, you'd put like early times. We've talked about Old Grandad. We've talked about maybe Wild Turkey 101. Canadian Club.
Yeah.
Seagram's. Like, those were all daily drinkers 10, 20 years ago. People would buy those in case quantities and take them home and come back to the liquor store in a month or two when they run out. And now, like, I think just the daily drinker for the average bourbon person, if you have one, has kind of upgraded a little bit to like a Basil Hayden or to like a Knob Creek 9-year small batch, or to a Buffalo Trace. Like something just a little step up, a little more expensive. Not that they're still just drinking the same whiskey all the time, but it's not like you're walking in and buying a case of handles of one thing. Like that's kind of dead unless you're part of the older generation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hasn't Jake bought a case at your store before?
I'm sure he has.
Store picks though.
of good shit though. not like he's buying cases of handles.
Yeah, no.
He bought a case of the Hard Truth store pick.
Yeah.
I mean that's warranted.
The Torabeg rum finish.
Oh, the Mossburn,
the Mossburn.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah,
coming.
which I think is coming either this. I think it might be coming at the end of this week.
Nice. Oh my god, it was so good. I'm so
Mm-hmm.
excited.
I know.
But yeah, I mean, like, I think that's actually. So yeah, I think the question that I want to ask is, do you think we're seeing a shift from those like staples because of the expansion of like the whiskey industry in general? Or is it just that people's taste has evolved and they're no longer looking for like 90 proof, 94 proof whiskey as like a staple?
I think it's a combination of both. I think the bar has been set higher because of all these great whiskeys and distilleries that have popped up. So to step up from like early times to like a Knob Creek, that's not really a big jump. Um, that's a very small jump with how expensive whiskey can get and how hard to find whiskey can get. But it's a very small jump with the range of whiskeys that we have available to us. What was the other part of the question?
So I think the other, I think that's a good answer. I think the other, like my follow up would be, I've kind of seen a shift away from like we're talking about like lower proof. I would almost say that even like bottled and bond doesn't even get like the credit that it used to anymore. It's like I feel like in the past, bottled and bond was considered like the elite whiskey. Where now I think some people almost look down on it because it's only 100 proof and it's not, as complex as, barrel strength offerings or, just the other, wide range of products available.
Yeah. I mean, I do think we're kind of seeing a comeback of bottled and bond a little bit too. Like as of recently, there's been a bit more of an appreciation, but it makes sense why it kind of went away because we didn't, the Bottled and Bond Act was put in place to ensure that the whiskey we're getting was legit, and we didn't, in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, like we didn't have to worry about them adding color or tainting the whiskey with chemicals just to make it taste better, speed up the aging, so that the term bottled and bond has kind of changed the way we look at it. And I think now, like, more and more people I'm hearing it at least at the store, like people that are like, yeah, I got into the barrel proof thing and now I'm kind of going back and just finding my sweet spot back at like 100 proof. Like, appreciate a good bottled and bond bourbon.
Yeah. I think part of it too is skewed by a lot of the groups and people we associate with too, because like if I go home, I got a lot of friends at home that are whiskey drinkers, but I'm small town area. So it's still the lower proof stuff, the cheaper stuff that goes quite a bit. I think that we've evolved over time with us, with what we like, what we drink more often or not. But there's still a lot of people that just enjoy their simple low proof whiskeys for a cocktail at night, or a simple Jack and Coke, or even just I think that there's still a massive market out there for that, and that's why you still see those things in massive quantities. I mean, what percentage of shelf space, Jake? You don't need to know this answer, but the percentage of shelf space that's devoted to Jack probably hasn't changed too terribly much. It's probably gotten a little bit smaller for some of the other Jack products, but just old number 7 probably still takes up a decent amount of space on the shelf compared to what it used to.
Yeah, and I mean those are those brands like you have to carry, so you're not going to walk into a bar or a liquor store and not find Jack Daniels on the shelf, unless there was some bad blood somewhere with that store owner or manager or whatever. You're not going to not find products like that. So yeah, I mean there's still it's a good go-to. It's if you're throwing a party and you don't drink whiskey, you're going to grab something that you've heard of, that something popular. So yeah, I guess like maybe they aren't dying, but the average person our age, I mean, look at the wall of whiskey behind Jake. Like he's not going in and grabbing a Wild Turkey 101 bottle every week just so he can have something to drink.
Yeah. I think.
Speaking of that, did Jake just buy Wild Turkey 101 on the Gold Eagle app?
No.
Can you check and see if that came through?
No, I did not.
But that also brings up a good point because we're seeing Wild Turkey, Jack Daniels, they're coming out with all these high-end expressions now. They're realizing that, all right, the young consumer doesn't want to buy just old number 7 off the shelf. They want all these different options. They want bonded triple mash, bonded rye. Like they just discontinued their regular rye just to do the bonded rye.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say like necessarily in that case it's high end because it's still a $35 bottle, and which is
Still,
relatively cheap in today's market. So
absolutely, yeah.
Well, that's like I think our generation has a much different like I don't.
We have a higher appreciation.
Yeah, and like
for whiskey.
I think COVID was a big driver in millennials opting to spend more money on alcohol products, which I think was also I think started earlier with the boom of the like microbreweries and things like that, where people are willing to pay like $8 or $12 or even like $20 for one beer. And that kind of stuff. And now with the whiskey boom, I think millennials have I think a greater appreciation for the actual like flavors and distinctions of different types of booze. To put it bluntly,
we're in it for a different purpose.
Yeah.
Whiskey in the pat, whatever. You used it to get a buzz on, to get drunk. You mix it with Coke, whatever. But we have a purpose behind it. I mean, I drink a lot of whiskey, but I also really care about my health, which is why when I'm going to drink whiskey, I'm going to drink something good. I'm not just slugging down the same thing every time just to just to get through the day. So yeah, I think we have a higher appreciation, and we want to explore and we want to learn, and it's more of like a hobby and way to connect with people than just a way to get drunk and get a buzz on. So
yeah, it's the days of like coming home and like slamming a 6-pack of Miller Lite after work, I think aren't really applicable for our generation.
So I think we can agree.
Dan is also
maybe we can't agree. Maybe
I think
we
Dan's technically not a millennial, so
yeah, I'm a boomer. But again, I think it's a lot of us. What?
I mean, Dan, we still have people that come in every day and grab their 6-pack of Miller Lite. Come in every 2 days and grab their handle of Evan Williams. There's still those people, but they're all older people, and there's going to be outliers.
Yeah, a lot of it too is location and environment that's around you. Because
just
going back to my small hometown, when I first turned 21, me and my buddies all landscaped together for the same guy during summer, and every night we'd go home, we'd eat dinner at our parents'. I was the only one that was 21, so I'd go grab a 30-pack of Busch Light. We'd start a fire, drink a 30-pack of Busch Light that night, go home, go to work the next day, do the same thing over and over. But there's back in smaller towns and stuff, there's still a lot of that happens. A lot of it's environment driven.
Now that you're a mildly
we all
successful
did that when we were 20 and 21.
Right.
You did it when you were 20, Jake? That's illegal. Call the cops.
You just admitted to buying booze for underage people.
I didn't say. I said I was the only one that was 21.
And you bought a 30 rack. Yeah.
Hey, you'd be impressed at how quick I used to be able to put down Busch Light.
So there's definitely a shift, I think, in the overall market, I think. Right.
I think, we can agree that the daily drinker is not dead. It's just very different definition of what a daily drinker is than what it was before. It's not. It's a combination of many different things that we've discussed.
Yeah.
So speaking about a shift,
Go, good segue.
transitions
Bring it home.
segue.
Bring it
galore.
home.
Transitions galore. So barrel bourbon
And what
or
sparked this topic?
barrel?
Yeah, I was just adding on to your transition.
Oh, a
What
little
sparked
delayed.
this kind of topic here? Break the news, Dan. Come on, you can do it.
Jake already broke it to start off. Barrel sent us some wonderful samples.
Whoa.
With they're now having some cask finish stuff. Cask finish we've talked about before. It's just a different way to add some new flavors into bourbon without having to go back and reinvent your mash and everything every time. So Barrel sent us 2 different samples. First one we're trying is Cask Finish Series, The Tale of Two Islands.
Well, hold up.
Yep, go ahead.
The transition was that Barrel is coming out with a daily drinker.
Oh,
Right.
I was going to go with the shift of the shift of Barrel going to cask finish. You were going to go with a shift to Barrel as a daily drinker. Let's do
Well,
that then.
Just I mean,
Jake's
we don't
got
have a
rant
sample of it.
lined Up.
Jake, sorry, I didn't know that's the rant you wanted to go on already. I thought we were saving that for the end.
Well, so I mean,
Sourpuss,
we
go
had-
ahead. No, go ahead,
we had
Sourpuss.
we got these samples of the cast finishes. Yes, thank you, Dan. But what kind of sparked us to tie these 2 topics together was that Barrel Craft is coming out with a lower proof, what they call daily drinker option.
Mm-hmm.
The Founders series. So, I mean, we were talking before we started recording this episode, our thoughts on that, and I mean, I'll be blunt with it. I love Barrel Craft, but I don't think it's a good idea. Their whole motto is cask strength, innovative blends. And the reason the whole distillery started was because they hated when their owner hated when distilleries added water to bourbon. He's like, let me add my own water.
So before you go on to your little rant here, I just have a pet peeve of calling
that was kind of
blenders
my rant.
distillers.
Whatever.
Oh my God.
You get what I'm
Jeez.
talking about.
We feel that if you don't have your still, it's hard to call yourself a distiller because it's hard to distill things when there's nothing to distill the product through. But anyway,
distillery,
yeah.
which technically
He
is a
hasn't-
licensed
He hasn't even
distillery.
been distilling for a year, and all of a sudden it's we, the distillers.
Right. Mhm. We, the group.
I was talking more of
distillers.
we as our company of Whiskey Acres are not a fan of places that call themselves distilleries when they don't have a still.
Yeah, it's a fair
But anywho.
point. But
Well,
Anywho,
anywho,
so
Dan,
Jake's a
back to your
sourpuss.
cask finishes.
No, we'll stay on your sourpuss brand. So Jake's a sourpuss because Barrel came out with a really good tasting whiskey that's not their normal proof point. I tried it at a whiskey event and liked it. Did I like it as much as their 120 proof? No. Did I like it more than a lot of the lower proof whiskeys? Yes, I did.
I'm not saying
So
you
I
can't
will
have a
not
good
be-
lower proof whiskey, and I'm not saying the foundation is bad because I haven't really gotten a chance to taste it. But it's just not like it's not them. It's not Barrel Craft. They came
your
out
argument
with
is from like a principle.
they came
kind of-
they came
kind of
out with
standpoint,
Stellum because they wanted a gateway into Barrel, and they were like, all right, we can have something a little more affordable with the Stellum line, and that'll get people turned on to Barrel. And that didn't really go as planned. So now they're looking at coming out with the foundation to drag people into Barrel. I mean, who knows? Maybe it's a great move. Maybe people are going to love it. Maybe they're going to move a ton of volume. Good for them. I'm happy for them. I love Barrel. I don't like talking negative about them. That's just my initial impression. Was it kind of shocked me because their whole entire motto was barrel proof.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Blend
it's
that
interesting to
cask
me
strength.
just because they pushed, they obviously, like you said, they pushed the cast strength, they pushed Frank, a lot of their stuff is fairly high proof, even for being cast strength, and blending and all that stuff. But to me, it's kind of striking that they're almost going backwards by trying to release a flagship after they've already well established their brand.
Mm-hmm.
and deviating so much from their brand message by watering down the product. It's interesting. I haven't tried it yet, so I'm not gonna, give any judgment on it. But I would agree that it's an interesting and controversial move for a brand that seemed to take a lot of pride in delivering specifically cast strength product, for like the entirety of their existence.
Yeah, I understand that you guys grandstanding behind it because it's not their main philosophy that they came out with, and I can fully see that. The other side that I like to see of things is, let's say this makes them a decent amount of change and they're allowed to grow and do more things and bring us more unique things on the barrel proof side of things, then it's totally worth it.
I agree. Like I said, best of luck to them. I hope it works. I hope people enjoy it, but just initially, it just really threw me off guard.
You know what the price point is on that by chance?
I think it's like
50 or 60.
$55, $54.99 on the shelf.
Yeah. What's the proof? Like 94?
I thought it was 100.
I thought it was 100.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, or like 95 or something. But
that's not terrible.
It was definitely over 90. Pretty sure it's 100, but we'll.
You good? You got that off your chest now?
Well, that was the transition into the second part of the episode where, yes, we're going to be tasting barrel. That kind of tied the two topics together, I feel like.
So Barrel
Before
was
Dan
nice
ruined it.
Barrel was nice to send us some spirits, but after they find out Jake's a sourpuss, who knows if we'll get anything else sent to us from Barrel.
Yeah. Are they one of our 200 listeners?
They've sent us stuff a few times, so more than likely, yes.
The owner of the distillery is one of our 5 subscribers.
I mean, they keep sending us samples, so
that's good. So yes, we love you, Barrel. Keep sending samples.
And so they got the 2 different cask finishes. One is the Tale of Two Islands, and the other one is an Amburana finish. Mm-hmm. When do you guys want to talk about the Tale of Two Islands? I'd like to talk about the Amburana.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So I've got my cheat sheet card for the Tale of Two Islands. So the blend components are Indiana whiskeys, a 5, 6, and 9-year-old, and a Maryland bourbon, that 5 and 6-year-old. Mash bill is 73% corn, 23% rye, and 4% malted barley. It's a decently high rye content. So Tale of Two Islands, basically, there was they had some Jamaican rum that was finished in peated Islay Scotch casks. Then they used those ex-peated rum casks to finish this blend in. So it's an interesting combination of bourbon, rum, and Islay peat. I will say there's almost no semblance of the peat in this. I would say maybe on the finish you can kind of tell it's there if you're looking for it.
It's a little on the nose. If you really dig deep into it, there's a little on the nose, but it's not like a strong. If you don't like peat, it's not a strong overpowering. You're not going to hardly be able to tell it's there.
Don't be scared of this.
Yeah, I was going to say I was very disappointed that I didn't taste more peat. As a Scotch lover, I was so excited for this to come out. And when I tasted it, I was disappointed.
Oh, God, and it's only at 118.22 proof. Oh, their stuff is supposed to be 120.
But yeah, I mean, on the nose...
it's a really good whiskey.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, it's a really good whiskey. It's really, really balanced. Jamaican rum is super funky and kind of hard to work with. And I do think to appeal to the bourbon drinker, which is obviously most of their customers, they nailed this one. You get the slightest hint of peat. Maybe it's not even peat, just kind of like a saltiness combined with the funkiness of the Jamaican rum. But at the end of the day, it still tastes like a bourbon and doesn't really taste too finished.
Yeah, it's got a lot of the like classic bourbon notes on the nose. There's a little bit of extra sweetness from the rum. It may be some like there's a little bit of like citrusy kind of notes too.
Definitely
more
like some
than just
banana
like your
and
typical.
citrusy.
Yeah,
I'd say the
it's
banana.
not just your typical orange. It's like a little some other like tropical kind of fruits. And the palate is very well balanced, like Jake said. You do get quite a bit of the rum, but it's not overpowering in the way that a lot of rum finished bourbons just become too sweet. I think this is pretty well balanced. And then to me, on the finish, like well into the finish, I get a little bit of smokiness. This is going to sound weird, but it's almost like the day after you smoke a cigar. There's like that lingering kind of taste, but not in a bad way.
Normally when I think of that, that's a bad thing.
Yeah, no, it's like it's if you really enjoyed that, that's like what it's like.
Yeah, I'm never a big fan of a lot of finishes. I know I'm just an old curmudgeon, but I think the nose on it is great. Hold on, my dog's turning around upstairs. I think the nose on it is great. The finish kind of hits me the wrong way. I get a strong hit of ethanol on the top of the roof of my mouth. And just not a big fan of the finish on it.
Yeah, the finish is pretty heavy on the ethanol, especially like down in like my throat. I get a bit of that like ethanol heat.
I still think it
That's
drinks.
also where that smoke kind of sits for me.
Yeah, I still think it drinks below 118.
Yeah.
Man, I wonder what it tastes like at 90 proof or 100 proof. Maybe we should ask them if they can give us a sample of that, Jake.
Don't
Thoughts?
push it, Dan.
Yeah, overall it's pretty good though. It's I enjoy it more than I thought I was going to. I think the question would be, would I have enjoyed it more if the peak came through more or not?
I would have, but they probably would lose so much sales if the peat came through more. Most bourbon drinkers don't like peat.
I think it's there and subtle enough that if you're looking for it, you can find it. But if you're not, and most people aren't going to be able to pick it out that has some association with peat in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm getting a little bit of those like funky notes from the rum too on the finish.
Yeah. Like super overripe banana.
Yeah, like the Jamaican
grassy
kind of staple flavors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty good. So yeah, Dan, on to the Amberana.
That one was part Scotch, part rum. The next one is part Brazil with being an Amberana finish. Mm-hmm. Amberana, you're seeing a lot more. It's kind of becoming the trendy finish out there. So there's a lot of people doing it. It's a Brazilian oak that is very unique and very overpowering. I think you're starting to see it trend a lot because it's so unique and gives us such a unique flavor. I think the other reason you see it trending a lot is normally when you're doing a cask finish, at a minimum, you're going to have it in the finishing cask for 6 months. Most times it's going to be 9 months to 2 years.
Yeah. 3
Ish.
3 to 6 months, more so.
Ugh.
Over a year, I mean, obviously it depends on what you're finishing, but
yeah. Amberana, you measure that in weeks.
Yeah, to your point,
finishing.
Yes, it speeds up the finish.
2 to 4 weeks, and from what I've been reading on it, it's basically you're tasting it every day between 2 weeks and 4 weeks, because at one point during there, within one of those days, it's going to go too far the other way. And at that point, it's hard to bring it back. So I think you're seeing a lot of it because, one, there's a lot of word and buzz out around it, but two, it's quick to do. It's one of the few things in whiskey that doesn't take a lot of time. These are always more, I don't know, gingerbread cookies, kind of the normal flavor profile that you normally associate with Amberana.
Cinnamony, desserty, carrot cakey, cream
Clove.
cheesy, nutmeg, like all the baking spices, all the desserty spices, everything mixed into one. Christmas in a glass.
Yeah.
That's Amberana.
There's a couple Amberana finishes I've had that I've liked and a couple that I have really not liked.
It's very polarizing.
Yeah.
I know people
There's certain people that won't even drink it. They tried it once, they won't even drink it. I think that's a little far to go. But yeah, if it's done right, I think it's done very well. And if it's done wrong, I think it's a pretty big turnoff quickly for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, there's huge levels when it comes to Amberana. Some things are so Amberana overpowered. Some things, just have a little hint of Amberana. And I'm going to jump the gun here and say Barrel nailed it. They did it just right. Like right when everyone's coming out with an Amberana, they come out with something so balanced, so creamy, so approachable, something that is going to get people that, think they don't like Amberana into the category of Amberana.
Yeah, it's extremely well balanced. Like I think one of the other ones we've talked about is the Oak and Eden Amberana finish,
which is probably the most intense.
Yeah. Easily the most intense one I've had. That's like pure Cinnabon cheesecake, where this is more like kissed with cinnamon, and there's like that creaminess in there.
It's like dusted,
but you still can taste all of the bourbon notes. It's not just like overtaken by the Amberana flavors.
It's like
really, really well done.
It's like a cheesecake that was dusted with cinnamon versus a cinnamon cheesecake.
Right. Yeah.
My way of describing this would be if you took a glazed cinnamon roll and just dunked it in a bourbon real quick and pulled it right back out.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I'm getting on it. Like the creaminess of the frosting that you'd get.
The nose smells like
super vanilla.
Yeah, it smells like baking, like cinnamon rolls, or maybe even like apple pie or like something like that. But yeah, the actual palate is much more subdued than the nose is.
Yeah, the nose. I love the nose on this. I'm glad it doesn't taste as strong as the nose is.
Yeah, I think if it tasted as strong as the nose is, I think it would turn people off. So I think they did a really good job of giving you that like really nice teaser with the nose, but offering a very like subdued version for the palate. And definitely trying to highlight the notes of the Amberana without sacrificing the bourbon flavor.
Right. Yeah. Once again, it still tastes like a bourbon. You can tell that there's something different about this, but it doesn't scream Amberana when it's in your glass like the Oak and Eden. As soon as you pour it, the whole room smells like Amberana.
Yeah.
This by far and away has my favorite finish of an Amberana I've had. Probably one of my favorite cask finishes that I've ever had in terms of the finish on it. Because it's very gentle, but it just tastes like you just ate a cinnamon roll.
Yeah. It's really well done. I'd have to try the Oak and Eden again because it's been quite a while for me, but this is definitely one of the best. Probably between this and the Oak and Eden. I personally really enjoyed the Oak and Eden, but this is more sessionable, I guess, than the Oaken is. Like the Oaken is almost so rich that it's like you just shoved like 12 donuts and cinnamon rolls down your mouth, down your throat, and like you can't have more than just like one glass.
No, I'm just picturing you choking on cinnamon rolls now.
Yeah, no. Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, this is a good time to drop a coupon code, I guess, for these the cast finish series from Barrel. It's going to be kind of a rotating, like one-off series. So if you do really enjoy these, they're going to be available for a short period of time, and then who knows if they'll ever bring them back. But we can do how about Barrel Cask for 10% off. The Tale of Two Islands, which we haven't gotten in yet, should be coming very soon. Or the Amberana finish while supplies last. So Barrel Cask, and that's with 2 L's, spelled just like the distillery, as Dan likes to call it.
The blender. Yes. The blending house of Barrel. No, I'm a really big fan of the Amberana. I wasn't too high on the Two Islands, but this Amberana is actually really good. I'm excited to take it into work and share it with a few people as well. So,
yeah.
But I will transition us into plugs, but I'm actually going to plug something here really quickly.
Oh,
so we will plug
shameless
Gold Eagle.
Plug.
We will plug Gold Eagle, but before we plug Gold Eagle, we're going to plug Whiskey Acres and Gold Eagle. Because on Wednesday, November 15th, we are doing a masterclass. We, as in Whiskey Acres, is doing a masterclass at Gold Eagle.
Which
there's still a few tickets available.
I was going to say
two. There's still 2.
I don't think so. Sold out. By the time this episode airs, it's going to be sold out. There's 2 seats left. But a better plug for that would be that we're dropping something special at the class. And there's going to be some leftover bottles if you don't have a ticket.
Yeah. So we will be dropping we did the barrel pick on the podcast, the toasted barrel finish at 109 proof. Luckily, we didn't come to market as only having barrel proof stuff, so we're not getting shamed by Jake for having a 109 proof barrel pick. It is our 3rd ever cask series finish release. And this one was in a toasted oak barrel for almost 2 years. We dumped it the other week, so it was basically, it's called a 5-year because it was in the original cask for just over 5 years. It's been in oak for just shy of 8 years, 7 years, 10 months.
Wow.
By the time it got dumped.
Awesome.
So it's also one of our oldest, if you count time from into a barrel till into a bottle. It'll be one of our oldest releases. But we're cutting it down the last few days. It's smelling really, really good. Really excited about that. If there are any tickets available for the masterclass, unfortunately, I'll be the one delivering it. So
boo.
I was surprised, Jake, that you didn't call it the semi-amateur tasting at Gold Eagle.
Semi-amateur tasting. You're gonna do a good job.
I also like how I told you that I could bring Bloody Butcher or Blue Popcorn, and then I see the thing that we're sampling Bloody Butcher and Blue Popcorn. So good on you for that.
Well, I figured we'll taste them all, and I do have bottles of those. So if you can't provide them,
I got them. They're already pulled. So, the Blue Popcorn's not pulled yet because we haven't dumped it. But there's already stuff pulled aside.
I definitely have a Blue Popcorn bottle aside for the tasting. So if you're supplying a Bloody Butcher, I can supply the Blue Popcorn. That's not a problem.
Okay.
But
yeah, we'll be tasting, and then that night we'll be releasing the barrel pick, and it is very, very, very good. So
yeah, it'll be fun. Just don't fall asleep when Dan talks about corn sex for 3 hours.
We all know that everyone's there for corn sex. Like let's not hide the fact that people don't want to hear about corn sex. So, but Jake, if they want to buy that bottle, or if they want to use that awesome barrel coupon code you just gave out,
goldeaglewine.com.
Where can they go to use that?
Or go to the App Store, download Download our app. You can shop online for in-store pickup and soon buy stuff to be shipped to you. We also deliver within 15 miles. But yeah, check out our website at goldeaglewine.com. Follow us on Facebook at Gold Eagle Spirits. Follow us on Instagram at Gold Eagle Wine. And check in for all the daily updates on what we're getting delivered and upcoming events. And use that coupon code.
Nice. Yes. What was that coupon code
Barrel
again?
Cask, spelled BARRELLCASK.
Perfect. And Jake, if people want to find us on the listening devices or the watching devices, where can they do that at?
Yes, you can follow us on Facebook or Instagram at Bourbon Matters. You can watch us on Spotify and YouTube. You can listen to us on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Awesome. Well, it was fun to talk about some daily drinkers. We want to thank Barrel again for sending us some samples.
Yeah.
If you like Amberana, the Amberana is definitely a home run.
Yeah, or if you've been turned off by other ones, I would give this
one a shot. If you don't like this one,
it is very good.
You can give up on Amberana.
Yeah.
That's a fair statement. So, all right, guys. Cheers. Let's all keep getting better. Jake, get some sleep with the new little rugrat running around.
Doing all right so far.
That's good.
Keeping it together.
So far is the key word on that.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.